our website afterwards. Additionally, the other bit of housekeeping that I want to talk about is questions. So we will be taking questions today and we'll have a bit of a Q&A session at the end. For questions, I'm going to ask that you use the Q&A function built into Zoom rather than using the chat function. So that's the Q&A, and I'd like you to use that for questions. So welcome. Today we're going to be talking about our UK Postgraduate Awards. These are awards for students looking to go from the UK to the US through the Fulbright program. As I said before we started recording, but to introduce myself, my name is Sam. I'm the Senior Program Manager for UK Scholars and Students here at the US-UK Fulbright. Work with all of our outgoing programs to the US, and I've been working on our programs now for coming up on 5 years. So got a decent bit of experience in this process, and I'm joined this evening by Rebecca Jackson-Wally. Rebecca, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, my name's Rebecca. I am the awards officer here at the Fulbright Commission, and I support Sam on both the UK postgraduate program and the UK Scholar programs. And lovely to have you all here this evening.
Thank you so much. So today we're going to be talking about our UK Postgraduate Awards. As I said, the UK Postgraduate Awards are open right now. You can start your application, and the deadline for those is going to be on the first working Monday of May. That's the first working Monday of May. I believe that's May 6th. That'll be the end of the workday. You'll be able to find that information and plenty of other information on our website. And I'm going to iterate this now, and this will come up probably a lot during our answers to the questions as well. Our website, fulbright.org.uk, is the best place to go when you're thinking about starting an application. If you need any additional information, there's a page there where you can find under Fulbright Scholarships in the USA, and you're looking at our postgraduate awards. We'll have lots of information there, not only about the program in general, but about our individual awards for the program. And you'll find two really important pieces of guidance there that if you take anything away from this webinar, it's these two things. Make sure you're reading the country-specific instructions. This is a PDF document that we've made available on our website. It goes through each step of the application form with information about all of them, and also provides you some general information and some advice for filling out the application form. And I want you to look at our eligibility criteria as well. If you read both of these in detail, you will find that you end up asking far fewer questions throughout the process, and you'll have a much easier time of the application process. So what do our awards cover? Our awards can be used for, so we're talking about postgraduate awards today, and these can be used for postgraduate degrees, research, and some amount of teaching. The postgraduate degrees that we're talking about are masters or PhDs at accredited US universities for postgraduate study. And the research side of it, so that falls a little bit under master's and PhD programs, because those will often have elements of research in them. But we're also including under that a special category of award. This is our Visiting Student Researcher Awards. So students who are currently engaged in a PhD can apply to Fulbright to be a visiting student researcher to do 3, 4, 5, 6 months, maybe at most, in the US, doing some kind of lab work, maybe field work, archive work, lots of different options there. And that's an option that I think is really worth investigating too, if you're already engaged in a PhD, but sort of early on and not ready to apply for one of our scholar awards. That visiting student researcher award may be ideal for you. So I want to talk very quickly about what our awards don't cover. So I mentioned postgraduate awards at accredited, or postgraduate degrees, sorry, at accredited US universities. That doesn't include everything. So as some of you may know, medical school in the US is studied at postgrad level rather than at an undergraduate level like this. We do not support students going to medical school. That is not something that our awards can be used towards. We also, in different medical and clinical fields, there may be difficulties regarding the visa process. So if you are engaging in a field of study that may require any kind of clinical contact, just be warned that there may be changes needed to the research that you're proposing or conversations that you need to have with program staff before getting too far into either the research proposal process or if you're selected, the visa application process, just so that we can make sure that you're going to be able to get a visa to the US. And so as I mentioned, here are our award types. Most of our students are going on to do some kind of master's or PhD program using the Fulbright Award. We also have a visiting student researcher that I talked about a little bit in the last slide. And then some award types as well. So our award types break down into 4 categories, but there's overlap in them. So our All Disciplines Awards, these are our most popular awards. And the majority of our students that go to the US go out on an All Disciplines Award. And our partner awards. So these are awards where the funding for the award comes from a specific sponsoring partner. And I'll talk about these in particular in a future slide. Then the other way that our awards break down is based on placement model. So this is, how do you get to the university that you're interested in studying at, or how do you select the university you're interested in studying? We have 2 routes to this. We call them the independent placement model. This is where it falls to the student to make their applications and choose a university, and you'll be doing that from the period that you make your Fulbright application. And then we have our IIE placement model. So this is where our colleagues at the Institute for International Education get involved and support our students in the process of making applications. I'll talk in more depth about both of those in a little bit. That said, for our All Disciplines Award, just that first split, both placement models are eligible for the All Disciplines. For the partner awards, some of them that are based on discipline can be either independent or IIE placed. Those of them that are specific institutions, perhaps should go without saying, but those are all going to be independent placements because you will be already choosing the institution that you're applying to when you apply to a partner award funded by a specific institution. So let's talk about our All Disciplines Awards. These are awards that can be used for visiting researchers and for any degree-seeking student. These awards are not restricted to either placement model, as I said. So regardless of how you're picking your university, how you're going to be placed there, you can apply for an All Disciplines. And that university can be any accredited university in the United States that offers postgraduate degrees or has the archive, lab, whatever you need if you're doing the visiting student research side. For an All Disciplines Award, as is covered by the name, you can study in any academic field, with the small exception of medicine. So regardless of what it is that you're interested in researching, you will fit into this All Disciplines Award category. Now, the breadth of the All Disciplines Award is its strength, but it's also a little bit of the difficulty of making an application to the All Disciplines Award as well, because it is our most popular award. Granted, we have more than one All Disciplines Award out, but even still, the majority of applications will be for this award, which makes it the most. Which brings us on to why our partner awards. Because they're more specific, I would encourage you to think about whether any of the partner awards are right for you. Because if you find a partner award that your specific field interest or university interests match with, it may be the more strategic choice for you in terms of making it. So with our partner awards, they're generally split either based on institution or to be discipline based. So some are going to be partner awards where we've partnered with universities in the US. So we've got our 2 newest partner awards listed here, our award with American University and our award with the University of Maryland's School of Public Policy. But this year we're also partnering with the New School and with University of Florida. So our award with the University of Florida is going to also be discipline-based because we're looking at food security with that award. So if you're interested in food security or issues around food and agriculture and the environment, that University of Florida award may well be something that you're interested in. But then we have some discipline-based awards. So I've given some examples here. We partner with Elsevier to do an award in data analytics. So that might be something that you're interested in. If that's something you're interested in, perhaps better to apply on that one. And then we also partner with BAFTA for people who are interested in fields related to filmmaking. with all of our partner awards, not only is there the specificity that could make these more strategic choices, but these often offer different benefits to people studying on them. So depending on the institution that you're at, there may be opportunities to gain sort of academic work experience if there's student researcher or student research assistantships or teaching fellowships involved with those student assistantships. We've seen some of those come through in some of our awards more recently. So go and look at the details on the various pages to see what kind of support the university will be giving you on our partner awards. And then some of our partner awards based on discipline may have different funding models than our All Disciplines Award as well. Plus, there may be the ability to work with the partnering organization in terms of finding a network. That very much is up to the candidate themselves, or sorry, the grantee themselves as they go through the award. But these partnering organizations are interested in you, the applicant, because they're funding you. So there is a degree of interest beyond just throwing the money out there for us to find the right student to give it to. They're interested in that, what that funding is doing, who that's going to. So there will be some degree of getting to work with those names. Placement types. So our independent placement model was how all of our awards were 3 years ago. It's the sort of very traditional Fulbright model that as you're making your Fulbright application, you're thinking about universities where you want to apply for a postgraduate degree, and you would be making those applications yourself. This is still something that we're maintaining as a commission. This is something that we think works for students who perhaps have some knowledge of US postgraduate education. Perhaps they have universities or programs in mind that they definitely want to apply to. Perhaps we know that some students come to us with deferred offers and then they want to make applications for Fulbright to help them fund going to that university. There are lots of reasons why independent placement might be right for you. So if you have your heart set on attending a specific US university for your master's or PhD program, this is probably the model that you're going. We've recently, though, partnered with with an organization we've worked with for many, many years, the Institute of International Education, to work with their placement team for their placement. So the IIE has a placement team made up of experts in every academic field who have connections at a number of universities across the US. Their knowledge of both institutions and how they cater to different academic fields is unparalleled. I've never worked with a group of people who are so expert at what they do. And if you perhaps feel like you don't know enough to navigate US postgraduate education and finding the right program for you right now, or you're feeling flexible and strategic about where it is that you want to study as a postgraduate, this might be the right route for you. Because if you're successful after applying for the IIE placement model, your Fulbright application gets turned into a set of application materials by the IIE placement team, and they will work with us to find for you 4 or 5 institutions that they believe are the right academic fit for the application that you've made, and potentially also a great funding fit as well for your needs. And we will work with you and with them to make sure that that submission plan looks just right for you. And then when you've agreed to it, your application materials will be sent off to those universities. You'll also have that placement officer who will be there, or that placement manager, sorry, who will be able to, in some instances, advocate for you with the universities. They certainly have contacts all of those universities. So if those universities have questions about your application, they'll be coming to people who know your application inside and out and understand the Fulbright program inside and out. So there's a lot of benefits if you're not sure where it is that you want to study to going through this IIE placement model. As I said before, these are going to be in place for all of our All Disciplines Awards, but also for some of our field-specific partner awards. So these have covered realistically all of the basics to making an application. When you're making your application, you'll need to remember a few things. So make sure you're reading the country-specific instructions. The application form is used by the Global Fulbright Program. So this means that some of the instructions on the form aren't going to be relevant to the UK as a country. So make sure you're reading those UK country-specific instructions, and you can find those on the Fulbright website. Make sure that you're including everything that you can in an application. So you will have room to write a study objective, you will have room to write a personal statement, and we're also giving you room to write an optional reflective essay this year. More about that in the UK specific country instructions. But the more information that you provide in the application, the better, the more holistic an application we will have to assess. You also need to include 3 references in your application. The reason that I bring this up here is not only because those are very important to the application itself, but those references have the same deadline as your application. So we cannot accept applications after the deadline. We also cannot accept references to add to your application after the deadline. So make sure you're communicating with your referees now that you're going to need a reference to your application. In terms of additional resources, you will be able to find lots of things on our website to help you through the application process. We're going to have another webinar in April on submitting a competitive application, where we'll have alums joining us to talk about how they approach the application. We'll also have alums joining us from both strands of the different placements. So they will be able to talk about their experience of going through different placement models as well. So that may be really useful for you as well to come along and attend. With all of that said, we'll be taking questions. So Rebecca will be joining me on the screen and the microphone, and we'll be moderating your questions from the chat.
So we have a few questions that I had sort of been beginning to answer in the chat, but there was a few sort of repeated questions. So I think it might be helpful just to kind of recap a little bit. So I believe a few sort of late joins had just wanted to clarify that this session will be available. So it will be available on our YouTube channel afterwards, and it is being recorded. We also had some questions regarding that the deadline is for the 25-26 academic year, and that people are not able to apply for the 24-25 academic year. For unfortunately, the application for that cycle has already closed. We further had some questions regarding whether our scholarships are available to cover law school and LLMs. And as indicated in the chat, so some of our awards can be used to cover LLMs, but they are not able to be used to pursue further law qualifications. And there are a few limitations. For example, I'm aware that the American University Award cannot be used to cover an LLM, so please do check the website for award-specific advice. A good question now, Sam, I don't know if you want to input on this. So a question regarding how much an individual is able to sort of input into the decision on their submission plan along the IE placement.
Yes, so if you receive your initial plan from us, so the way that it works is the IE placement team will be sending us updates on what they think a plan looks like. And if you receive a plan from us, and we won't just send you a list of names, we'll give you reasons for why they think that university is applicable, what their university is really excellent at. If you receive that list and there's maybe a university on there that you don't want, we can go back and say, this grantee doesn't like X university being on their list. Are there any other options? So there's a little bit of input that you're able to have. It's not totally out of your hands. You won't have to attend a university that you don't want to attend. But also we're making use of expertise, people who have got so many years in this field and know these universities like the back of their hands. That means that very often they will be able to give us good detail on why those decisions.
We also have a question regarding if PhD researchers are able to apply for partner awards.
I would check the specific partner award because some of them may be applicable, but for instance, many of our institution-based partner awards tend to be tied to a degree program. So if you're already doing a PhD, you probably won't be able to complete a partner award that's with a specific institution, but maybe look at some of our field-specific ones. And if you have any questions about that, do email the Fulbright.
We had a few questions regarding if there's any support that we provide when successful applicants are looking for accommodations at their chosen university. Sorry. So do we support with housing? Do we provide advice on housing? Those kinds of questions.
So we don't provide support with housing at this point, and it's not something that we provide direct support for in terms of finding accommodation for you. What we can do is we can point you in the right direction in terms of alumni that are currently at that institution or have been at that institution recently, so can talk to you about the local area and finding accommodation there. A number of universities will probably also have international orientation and some online pre-arrival orientations where they'll be able to talk to you about that. So a lot of universities will likely have resources that you can access to talk about accommodation too.
So we had a few questions regarding how many awards can someone apply for? If they apply for one award and they're unsuccessful, can they still be considered for another award?
Right. So whilst you cannot apply for more than one award at a time, there may be some of our partner awards, especially those that are discipline specific, where if you're unsuccessful, but your application and your interview were very strong, it's possible that you may be considered for an all disciplines award. But it's this isn't something you should think about in terms of, great, I can apply for multiple awards by applying for a partner award that doesn't really necessarily fit what I want to do. We encourage you to make sure that the partner award is a good match with your academic aims or your university choice. But that said, like there is potential that some students who are unsuccessful for partner awards may be considered.
We had a few questions regarding sort of, again, the IE placement route. So if someone has a specific city that they really wish to study in, but they're not sort of tied down to one institution, would we recommend that the IE placement type would be a sort of a good option for them?
I'd perhaps consider doing some research into the universities in that area first, and consider what it is about that area that is why you want to study there, because the IE placement team will be looking to find your best academic fit. So if that city doesn't necessarily have a great academic fit for you, it may be that the IE placement team don't view that preference as being necessarily the most necessarily a priority for guiding their work with you. But also how strong that preference is and why that preference exists may come into it as well. For instance, if you need to be in a specific area because of the kind of research that you're doing, then it makes perfect sense for you to be in that specific area. You know, if you're looking at weather systems that only occur in specific parts of the US, or environment like forest fires, for instance, with environmental degrees, those kind of things might have field work on your specific program that would be much harder to do from different parts of the US. So there's lots of factors that are geographical that might go into this, but I think it's worth you as a candidate thinking about why it is that that specific city is somewhere that you want to study.
We had a few questions regarding eligibility. So if someone is either pre-settled or settled in the UK, and so that they would be eligible under our criteria, but possibly that they could also be eligible under their sort of citizens country criteria. So just a few questions around that.
Yeah, so what we always recommend doing is reaching out to the commission or post in the country that you hold citizenship in and asking them if you would be eligible to apply through them. If you're eligible to apply through them, then we recommend that you go ahead and make your application through that Fulbright program. If you are not eligible to apply through that Fulbright program, then please get back in touch with us and let us and include the commissional post's response in your email to us, and we'll work with you further.
We also had a few questions regarding, how we might weight different applications. So if someone, for example, has already had substantial international experience, would we take that into consideration? Sort of slightly different question, but we also had a few questions regarding background. So if someone was first generation or an asylum seeker, would this be something that we take into consideration when assessing an application?
So we review all of our applications holistically, and we're taking into account a number of different things. Of course, there are different stages where there's almost a kind of eligibility criteria to it. So we're looking for students who have obtained a 2-1 at their undergraduate degree. Now, if you've obtained a degree grade lower than a 2-1, we do have a form where you can provide us with additional context around that. But we're reviewing all of these elements holistically. As a commission, we're reviewing for lots of different aspects. So we have academic reviewers who are looking at the strength of your academic proposal, your potential to be a leader within that field, the impact it might have on your career. We have internal reviewers as well who are reading from a Fulbright program perspective. So looking at things like your ambassadorial qualities, your cultural curiosity, the way that you engage with the program in terms of the way that you write about your degree journey. So we're taking into account so many different factors with every application that you will have opportunity to write about throughout the year.
We had a question regarding if people are able to defer an offer if they were successful as well.
There is currently no way to defer Fulbright program.
We then had a few questions regarding sort of the acceptance rate or the competitive rate of the All Disciplines Award specifically, or how that might compare to partner awards.
Yeah, so we don't publish our acceptance rates because our awards differ every year. The number of awards we offer differs every year, not just based on or based on things like funding available and the number of partner awards we have and things like that. So there's not really a set acceptance rate to the Fulbright program. What I will say is I wouldn't let the cohort size put you off. So every year we have around 20 to 25 students on our awards. This sounds like a very small number. Do not let it put you off. We would recommend if you're interested at all, we would recommend making an application. Typically, our partner awards do have smaller application pools because they are more specific. So it may be a more strategic choice to apply for a partner award, but really only if you're interested in that specific university or that field works for you. Otherwise, a strong application to an All Disciplines Award is still probably the more strategic option, because if you're not really interested in that field, that university, then your application may still be weaker within a small.
We then had several questions sort of jumping back to the IE placement type regarding sort of the funding benefits. So some questions regarding, do you have to pay to apply to universities through the IE program? Additional questions regarding paying for testing, and then also some questions on sort of the financial benefits of being with the IE program. Does that mean that you're sort of guaranteed a fully funded offer?
Yeah. So we'll address all of those in part. My experience with the IE placement program this year, I've not seen that anyone's had to pay application fees to universities through the IE placement model. I believe the IE covers that, or it's waived for Fulbright applicants through the IE placement model, but that's something that I would need to double check. Candidates applying through the IE placement program, though, this year certainly had their standardized tests covered during the application period. So that's something that's happened in the past, and I imagine will continue to be the case during the near future at least. And then in terms of support, the way that we're phrasing it right now is that candidates who apply through the IIE placement model may receive funding up to the full cost of attendance. Right now, we're still getting an understanding of how universities choose to offer graduate level financial aid. So we're seeing offers come in right now, and some universities provide a lot of support, other universities don't provide as much support. It's still something we're building up some experience with, but with the advocacy of the placement team and with their knowledge of which universities tend to give good support, it's more likely that you'll be able to find that kind of full attendance funding through applying to us through the IE placement program. And additionally, in this last year, students applying through the IE placement model have had access to our opportunity fund and the additional funding through that. So again, there's just a little bit more financial support on that side.
We then had some questions with the application itself. So first on references, just confirming how many are required if the answer is 3, but also who would we recommend sort of be the best people that people get to write the references?
Yeah, we would recommend the references are written by uh, people at your university or your place of work that know you well and have worked with you. So with your university, it may be your supervisor on your dissertation if you've started that or written that already. Probably your tutor, someone in your department that's taught you well on a course that you've done well on, for instance. Those are all good ideas. And then your line manager or someone that you work with directly in your place of work may also be someone to write this application. If you've done, for instance, like some research assistantship over summer, maybe the academic that you worked with there, there's lots of options, but pick people who are able to write about you. Um, whilst our team reviewing applications here is UK based, we have a number of reviewers who are from the US, and the application form is written like a US application form. So there's lots of space to write these references. So recommendation letters that are able to provide detail about what they're saying about you and write with good evidence about the kind of student you are. There's plenty of room for them to do that in the way that US recommendation letters tend to be able to say a lot about the people that they're writing about. So make sure you're picking people who would be able to write a good sort of page or two page long piece of writing about.
We then had a few questions regarding sort of the timeline of the application process. So firstly, some questions regarding will any additional awards be announced between now and the deadline? And then sort of after the deadline, will any additional awards for the 25-26 academic year be announced, or are we expecting that they'll be announced? And then separately, some questions regarding how it works, whether they should already have a deferred offer for the 25-26 year, whether they apply to the Fulbright program, and then sort of subsequently apply to the institutions themselves.
Yeah, we don't anticipate announcing any new awards for the 25-26 academic year at this moment in time. That said, last year when we were in this position, we didn't expect for the American University Award to open around the time that it did. So there is always the possibility that something might happen. But if you're waiting until later in the year to see if there's something else you can apply for, I would recommend against doing that. I I think the best opportunity to apply is right now because I do not anticipate that we will be opening any additional awards. Um, in terms of applications, independent placement program wise, you do not need to be holding a deferred offer to make an application now. You have plenty of time to apply for graduate. So if you are applying to the Fulbright now for entry to a US university in academic year 2025, most of those graduate school application forms won't even be open yet. You'll normally be looking to make those graduate school applications from the autumn onwards, and quite often they stay open for quite a long time. So uh, don't be put off if you're not already holding an offer from a university. You have more than enough time to apply. If you haven't made any applications and you're going to be applying on the independent placement program, make sure that you're focusing your Fulbright application now because most of those graduate school applications, if they're open right now, they'll still be open when you've submitted your Fulbright.
Awesome. We'll come to our final few questions. Just to kind of highlight, as I'm aware that we sort of have a constant stream of questions coming in, they're awesome questions. But just in case we can't get to all of them, I've seen some people asking how can people get in contact with us again. So we do have sort of call hours that are available on our website, and we also are available via sort of our general team inbox, which is programs@fulbright.org.uk. If you go to contact us on the website, you can also sort of email us directly through the web page. That's a little bit easier. And just to flag, I'd seen there was quite a few questions about sort of the specifics of how we might recommend someone write either their personal statement or their sort of research proposal. Just to kind of highlight that we will have another webinar on April 3rd, sort of going more in depth on how to write a competitive application. So if you want some sort of further information on that, we'd highly encourage you to come back and attend that webinar if possible as well. So yeah, last few questions. We had some on sort of specific types of degrees. So first, whether the Fulbright Award can be used for MBAs, and then with medical sort of medical rules. So for example, programs such as global health or health media, where there isn't going to be any patient contact or any clinical work, but they're sometimes run by a medical school. How would we sort of deal with that?
Yeah, so students have studied MBAs in the past through the Fulbright program. Um, I suppose the one thing to think about is cost. A lot of MBA programs are very expensive. You'll be able to see the kind of support that the Fulbright program offers on the website. So think about whether if you might need to provide additional funds to your MBA study. Is that something that you're able to do, or is the university able to help with that funding burden too? In terms of degrees related to medical fields that are not medicine themselves, so things like global health, public health, that kind of thing. That kind of policy work is perfect. That is something that lots of students will do a Fulbright through. We've met plenty of alums who did their masters in things like public health through the Fulbright program. There are no issues with that kind of program, provided, as you say, there is no clinical contact.
We then had a question regarding whether there'll be any in-person events for successful applicants or whether there'll be any engagement with the rest of their cohort.
Yeah, so and I saw a question as I was scrolling through the box too that mentioned something in person, so I'll just cover both of these. Interviews will not be in person. Our interviews will be conducted virtually, and they will happen during the August of this year. In terms of events, our main in-person event happens every year in July, the summer before you will start your Fulbright program. So for people applying now, we're talking about July 2025. This is our pre-departure orientation event. All of our scholars and students who will be departing for the US are invited to this event. And it's an event where there's a good opportunity to get to know your cohort. You'll present on what you're hoping to get done in the US, your research, and then things you're excited for whilst living in the US. You will get to meet alumni. There will be alumni panels where you will learn everything you might need to know about finding accommodation and opening a bank account through to dealing with culture shock. There'll be a reception as well, celebrating your achievements so far. This is a really great event, and we hold it every year, and we plan to keep doing so.
We had a few questions regarding sort of mid-career applicants, or those who have been, their undergraduate or their master's might have been quite a while ago. Are those applicants sort of equally competitive, and how would we advise they approach things like references if they've been out of sort of academia for a very long time?
Yeah, there is no problem with applying for people who have either been out of academia or are sort of mid-career. We have a number of alums every year, or throughout the previous years of the program who have made that career move through the Fulbright program. It's something that we see on the regular. So you're not at a disadvantage if you're not coming straight out of university. Equally, if you are coming straight out of university, you are not at a disadvantage either. It's a very holistic program. We like seeing people apply from all stages of their careers. But if you are not someone who's recently been in university, you're thinking about those references, make sure your professional references are still really strong. So think about getting those professional references, particularly if you're thinking about getting a master's degree to skill up in the same career. Having people in your field write references for you is still going to be really valuable. If not, I still think having some, or at least one of your references be from someone you know in your professional life is going to be really important. Otherwise, reach out to your old university. There may be people there that are able to write reference letters for you, and potentially asking people that you're working with on projects that are related to your master's degree. If you're doing sort of projects independent of your career, there might be people who are able to write reference letters for you. So there's lots of different options out there. If your situation is perhaps more complex than is covered by that, do reach out to us. But I'd recommend people in your place of work are often a really great place to start.
And then finally, we had a few more questions on the interview. So sort of when would interviews be? How long is the interview process? When would candidates find out after interviews?
Yeah, so our interviews will be in August. Candidates will normally find out at the end of August or start of September whether they had been successful or not. Our interviews take about 20 to 25 minutes. And there will be more information about our interviews made available to candidates who are successful.
And then I said finally, but I'll just ask this one question just because it's quite an easy one. Just a few questions that I've seen actually about the J1 and F1, sort of the differences in which would students be on if they want a Fulbright.
Yeah. So all students who are on a Fulbright award will be on a J1 visa. Um, I recommend looking at the US government resources about the differences between them. I suppose a big difference, because the Fulbright program is understood to be a cultural exchange program, is that people who go to the US on a J1 visa have to return to the country of residence for 2 years before going to the US on another J visa. It's called the 2 year home residency rule. You can read about it again more on the US government's website when you find it by Googling J1 visas, and there's a US government website page about it with lots of information. If you the way it's sometimes interpreted, though, the 2 year home residency rule is that you cannot go to the US ever again. That's not true. If you want to go to the US as a tourist in those 2 years, that's fine. It's that you cannot have another J visa.
I think that kind of sums it up for sort of the simple questions. I guess there are quite a few questions regarding specific circumstances. And I guess, again, just to advise that people do sort of reach out to us either via our sort of call hours or the contact us page. If there's a specific program and you want to know if it's eligible, or you want to know some more details about one of our specific partner programs, we're happy to sort of have those conversations with you sort of on a one-to-one basis. We can provide some more sort of specified advice.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming along today. Uh, as I said, we will have another webinar coming up in April, so keep your eyes peeled for that one, because there'll be lots of useful information there as well. But until then, as Rebecca says, do get in touch. Have a great week.
Bye all.